What is up, everybody? Welcome. Today, as you can see, we are doing a Spider-Man No Way Home review with the gang. No, I'm just kidding. We're doing a season 41 retrospective. Season 41. Drop the four, keep the one. A lot of questions I have to ask to all of these beautiful and amazing people. We are the Survivor Buffs, me and Adam, but we're joined by Coach Drew, the host of the Survivor Hot Takes, the legend. Chris, the coverage of many, many international Survivor seasons, the International Survivor Stand. And then we have Justin, host of The Block. So we're going to get to what their thoughts of the season are because we haven't got to hear what they think of a lot of the season. So we're interested. We want to know. We want to know what the team thinks about Survivor 41. So I guess, Adam, my first question, where was the monster? You know, like I'm just all right. Anyways, I
Well,
wanted
it
to
was
go.
Heather. It was Heather, right?
It was Heather. Heather was the
Heather was
monster,
not the
right?
monster. No,
Yeah, no,
I don't know. No, thanks. Thanks for kicking us off, Gideon. Yes, we're the Survivor Buffs, presented here by Reality Pop. We try to get the sort of the heads of all of the Reality Pop podcasts here to sort of wrap up the year, wrap up the season. This is our first time covering a Survivor season live, so we have, as Gideon said, Coach Drew, Chris, Challenge Insiders, Justin from the Block covering Big Brother. We're going to talk about 41. I want to throw the first question or two over to Justin because he's only going to be here at the beginning of this. But I guess the first question, Justin, is just like, what are just your overall thoughts of the season?
Yeah, I kind of understood what Survivor was trying to do, ringing in the new era of Survivor, coming out of the COVID year and trying to add a spice to the season. I guess overall, I thought it was a fairly balanced season. It didn't really seem like anyone was running away with the game. Obviously, you had people like Ricard and Xander that were comp beasts, but at the end of the day, it kind of felt like going into any competition. Anyone could really take the immunity or win the reward for the most part towards the end of the season, which I liked. It felt very balanced. Kind of had a little bit of a slow start just from a personality standpoint of character development, but ultimately felt like it was a pretty decent season getting back into it, even though it was a shortened season and there seemed like there was a new twist every 30 minutes, 2 times each episode. So I liked it.
Justin, I know you host the Block, which covers the Big Brother. Who from this season, give me like one or two people who you think from this season might do well in a Big Brother house?
I mean, first and
Besides
foremost,
Heather. Besides Heather, because she's the obvious one. But
yeah, Heather, just
yeah.
a comp beast, personality beast. She had everything working in this season of Survivor. I think obvious for me would be Xander, just from the standpoint of he seems to fit the mold of what Big Brother would try to cast. Finding that surfer dude. We've seen that kind of guy in the past on Big Brother. Very personable, easy to create connections. Another guy I would like to see, or another player I would like to see on there would be Danny, just from the standpoint of he seemed to do a pretty good job of staying level-headed and actually developing some relationships as well. Plus, former athlete, formerly with the Dallas Cowboys. I love that competitive spirit. Anytime you can get that into a reality TV show, kind of takes it to the next level. So I would love to see him in Big Brother as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Could Erika win Big Brother?
If she had a time lapse hourglass that she could smash to win immunity, then maybe. But I don't see that happening in Big Brother anytime soon.
You never know. I was going to go around and ask, we'll get to some more detailed questions later, but just to get everyone's kind of overall thoughts on the season, that way when they answer the rest of the questions later, it'll make more sense. I'm assuming you guys all know what a tier list is. So if you had the tier list of S, A, B, C, D, and F, where do you think you personally would put this season on a tier list? When me and Gideon did our finale recap, we did this. I believe I said like high D and Gideon said low C, if I remember correctly.
I was
But
a bit higher than you on it. I was like either a solid or a low C, and you were like, yeah.
So Chris, where would you put this on a tier list?
Wow, I thought I was low on the season. You guys really, really don't have a high opinion of it if you're ranking it that low. For me, I would like to answer it in two ways. If I looked at the cast, I would rank it A.
Absolutely.
If I had to look
Agreed.
at the season as a whole, the way that it played out, with production being so involved, manufacturing a lot of things in the show, I probably would say a high C for me, or maybe a low B. It could potentially go in there. The problem for me with this season is when I look at it and when I do my season rankings via tier listing, I would think, how much would I want to rewatch this season? And I don't know if it's a season that I want to rewatch all that often, to be honest. But a lot of that is due to the production and not the cast. So I feel like production really let the cast down this season.
Right. I think it's a top 10 all newbie cast, potentially even top 5. Potentially for me personally. But yeah, I agree with that. Drew, where are you at?
All right, so much like what Chris just said and what you just said, I love the cast. In fact, I say this is what Island of the Idols could have been if other things hadn't happened. I think this is a top 5 to top 10 cast, newbie cast of all time. I am very vocal about the fact that I hated most of the twists. And I think because of that, and I think it's a lot higher than a lot of you guys are, I have it low B, high C. And that's mainly because it's saved by the cast and saved by the fact it's almost David versus Goliath worthy respect that the players are giving each other. It's not a bunch of bitter people as they get voted out, like, oh, a bunch of FUs to each other. It's like, man, you know what? You got me. I'm out. This, that, and the other. So for me, low B, high C. I guess right now I put it high C. But when I do my rewatch where I actually just binge it in a day, I feel like it might move up a couple spots.
Drew, is it higher on your list than season 8 Survivor All Stars?
Absolutely, because
all right, kick him out of the stream. Kick him out. Kick him out. He doesn't deserve to be here.
Yeah, go ahead. Give your reason. It's wrong, but give.
No. A plug here. I will be doing a All Stars retrospective in a couple of weeks where I will actually sit there and rewatch it. But there was nothing on this season that made me uncomfortable as I watched it. And All Stars has at least 3 moments where I'm like, why do I watch this show? So season 41 has that going for it. All Stars is in my top 25, so it's not like the worst, but I would put 41 ahead of it as of now.
All right. I mean, you're wrong, but okay. Gideon, well, you had it high or low C, right?
Yeah, low C, and I think I share the same sentiments as everybody here. I think the cast is phenomenal. Just I felt a little overcrowded with the twists. There's, me and you talked about it, so that's my thoughts.
Yeah. And then Justin, where do you think you would put this season in a tier rank?
Yeah, so I would actually put it right there at like a B-, low B, just like everyone else. However, I will say the reason I rate it that high compared to what it should be maybe based on production quality is because I think as much as we didn't like how many twists were in this season, it almost felt like production was trying to figure out what twists could be long-term within the game. They were using this season to maybe find out what twists would work for future production, knowing that they were filming another season directly after it, what they could maybe film or throw into that season 42. So I think that we're going to see some twists come out of this season that have some longevity over the course of the next 5 to 10 years of Survivor, in my opinion, at least. I think that's kind of, I want to see how many twists actually stick and which ones don't stick from a production standpoint.
Yeah. Which we'll definitely get to the twist later. But the last question I'll ask Justin before you head out here, and then I'll get to everyone else on the same question. It's just like when people, like, obviously, it's sometimes it's hard to judge a season when it just happened. Like sometimes you do have to let it sit. not necessarily rewatch it, but sometimes rewatching it can change your opinions. I like to bring up Tocantins as an example. Was pretty panned. Was considered often like a pretty bad season amongst, like, people liked Coach and thought JT was a good winner, but beyond that, the initial reactions of Tocantins were not great. Whereas Gabon, which happened right before Tocantins, was I remember people seemed to really love Tocantins, or I love Gabon as it went on. As we go on now, Gabon is clearly the worst season of all time. Gideon, you can remain unmuted for that comment. Whereas Tocantins, no, Gabon has gone down a little bit. Whereas now Tocantins is considered, a lot of people, I've heard people put it number one as their favorite season. So what do you think people? I mean, it's really hard to judge, but like, what do you think people will look? If they look 5-10 years back on this season, what do you think they'll think of it? What do they remember? What will be like the highlights? What do you think like the legacy of this season is going to be, if you had to guess?
Yeah, I mean, kind of exactly what I just mentioned in the previous question was, I think down the road when we see some of these different twists that come out in season 48, people are going to be able to reference back to, oh, I remember the first season that happened, season 41, when they were trying to ring in the new era of Survivor. And not that Erika is not going to be a memorable winner, who's to say she won't be, I guess. But I guess from the standpoint of the ripple effect of what is going to come from this season and kind of overflow into future seasons, people will be able to look back to, kind of like we did in the first era of Survivor, if you will, of the first Exile Island, or something along those lines, where people can reference back to season 41 and say, okay, that was the first season with the knowledge is power advantage, or the Hourglass change, something like that. I do hope they don't overuse those in future seasons, however, because I don't want people to expect those things to happen every season. I would love to see them maybe sprinkle in things here and there from season 41. But I think all the twists, the new twists, I think that'll be the lasting legacy of season 41.
Very cool. All right, Justin, I know you got to head out, but join us back at the end, because I got a good final question I wanted to ask all you guys, so I don't want you to miss that one.
For sure. All right, guys, appreciate it.
All right. Chris, who do you want from this season to be on Australian Survivor?
On Australian Survivor? Well, Australian Survivor, for those who have watched it, and I know it's newly on Paramount Plus now, so if you haven't seen it, go and watch. I think it's from season 4 that they've got on there. Go and have a look at it. The big difference between Australian Survivor and the US Survivor, in my opinion, is the challenges. Like, it is brutal. I'm really excited to see what Sandra Diaz-Twine, for those who don't know, she's going to be in the latest version of the show, Blood vs. Water. I'm really interested to see how she's going to do in the challenges, because it is no joke. So probably if I'm looking at, well, hopefully she does well. Hopefully she's not using the sit out bench. Hopefully Jonathan takes the sit out bench away for the Sandra bench. Yeah, exactly, the Sandra bench. But if I'm looking to answer your question specifically, who would sort of go over to Australian Survivor and do well in a game such as that, I actually think Erika could win that season pretty comfortably. And it's also why I disagree with Pooji on the Big Brother stuff. I actually think she would do extremely well in Big Brother, because the best thing you can do in Big Brother is it's a longer game than Survivor. The fact that she won a 26-day, the more I think about it, is insane, because it should promote higher gameplay, more aggressive gameplay to get to the end, and it didn't. It actually, and maybe she played that way, we didn't see it in the edit, and I know we'll talk about Erika's win later on, but Erika could do well in Australian Survivor, because you need to lay low. You can't be a big target from the start. It's a 50-day game, so it's twice the amount of time that Survivor US is playing right now. And I think Erika, her gameplay, being under the radar and letting other people take hits and be shields for her, is the kind of gameplay that could get her to the end. I mean, we had a very good winner, who I'm not going to spoil for those here that haven't seen Australian Survivor yet, win with a very similar game plan as well. And I think she could be very similar to that player and very lethal in a game such as Australian Survivor. The big issue is the initial pre-merge section of the game. Can she get through that if she's not very strong in challenges? And for that reason, just before, and I know Gideon wants to add in because he's seen that season that I'm talking about, for that reason, the people that I just think challenge-wise will do really well is Danny, Xander, I think someone like Liana, I think, could do pretty well in that as well. And those would probably be with Erika, the people that I would say. And Ricard, I mean, I have to give respect to Ricard. I hate it when players anoint themselves as a legend in the game, but he did play a really good game. To me, the fans decide who the legends of this game would be, but he's got some merit. He played a pretty good game.
Yeah, absolutely. Just rolling off the question I asked Justin, Drew, what do you think? And what do you think people will look back when Survivor 50 is wrapping up? How do you think people will look at season 41?
Well, I feel like for the fans like us, the fans that have watched all of them, I feel like this will always have a special place in our hearts just because of when it came out, right after first wave COVID. And I think that it'll always have a whether we look back on it fondly or not, depends on the person. But I feel like people will always remember, yep, this is what I did when the premiere of 41 came out because I just had to deal with all this BS for the months leading up to it. I feel like Erika is going to have a Michelle Fitzgerald, Vesepia type rebirth down the line where people are just going to start standing her on the internet. And I'm all about it because I'm already very much Team Erika. I think the season, depending on what twists they bring back, I think this season could either be looked at fondly. Oh, they brought back, I don't know, not the. I'm trying to think of a good twist they had this season. But whatever.
I personally, and I know a lot of people don't like it. I think, Adam, you might have said in your recap you didn't like it. I like the wheel. I like the decisions that they had to make.
Okay, yes, I like that one too.
I think it was good. So I wouldn't.
Yes.
If we looked at all the twists, that's the one I wouldn't mind seeing.
Okay, so let's say they bring back that. They bring back one person from each tribe goes and talks with each other and then picks and chooses. Oh, this was the first season that they did that. But if they bring back the twist where you have to reverse time or you have to ask someone if they have an idol and they have to say yes or no, I feel like this season will not be looked at as fondly, especially if they grow those twists past what they already are now. So, like, you have the idol in Guatemala, which, was OP from the beginning, and then they slowly started to take power away from it. I feel like if they went reverse and had a power that's already OP, and then just gave it more power as time progressed, people would pinpoint this season as the one where it's like, that's where it happened. That's where it all starts to come off the rails. But I'm optimistic. I think that people will, by 50, as you said, I think by 50, people will look back on this and forget about the twist and only think about the characters. Similar to Pearl Islands, where whenever people bring up, oh, I hate when players come back after they've been voted out, people always skip over Pearl Islands, even though that was a twist in the game. But because Pearl Islands is such a great season, people just kind of either forget or don't pay attention to it. So I think that this season could end up like that.
Yeah, they kind of turn a blind eye to it. No, I agree with you. I think that's a good point. I think actually, I think I mentioned something similar in our finale recap. I saw more towards Erika, and we'll talk about Erika and our perception of her as a winner after this. But I do feel like looking back, people will see her as. I feel like Vesepia was a good comparison. She was when she won in season 4. It was kind of the first time people saw a Survivor winner as being not everybody, but as undeserving. And now looking back, I think a lot of people, maybe not Gideon yet, but a lot of people now look and say, "Oh wow, that was an underrated."
She was the best option in the final 2, that's for sure.
A lot of people look back and nowadays and say, "Oh wow, Vesepia was actually a kind of an underrated winner." So I feel like another thing holding it back now, and I don't want to just talk about Erika because there's much more to the season than just the winner. Another thing looking back on this season is I feel like at least for a certain amount of time, people are going to remember it as and this kind of will go for 42 as well. People will see it as two things. It's the COVID season. Although we might be having COVID seasons for a long time now. I think the perception was it was just going to be a season or two. I feel like COVID might be around a bit long. But whether or not they're going to be full-length COVID seasons or I guess 26 isn't quite half. It's like, what, 6/8 maybe? I don't know, 5/8 as like the shortened season. So hopefully that doesn't take away from Erika's win, and not only Erika but everybody else. Like I hope that doesn't hurt people's perceptions of other great players this season, like Chantel or Ricard. I hope people aren't like, oh, they were great players, but they did play in that shortened season. I'm hoping it doesn't come to that, and I could see it being that for maybe a couple, like a year or two or three. But I think long term, like when season 74 comes out and Rob plays for his nighttime, I don't think that people are going to look back on this season as, oh, that's the shortened season. It might be a thing that kind of goes in the back of your head, like the Outcast twists for Pearl Islands. Or I'm trying to think of like another twist that is kind of like that happened in a season that's kind of gone. I guess some people forget that Exile Island happened on Micronesia at times. But yeah, what are you thinking, Gideon? What are people going to remember from this season?
I definitely think there's a lot, you look at, you go on YouTube and you see like best Survivor compilations, and like I definitely think there were compilation worthy moments from the season, such as Xander saying you can play this fake, Nasir saying I'm as confused as a goat on AstroTurf. It's like all of these great moments. And what's funny about these great moments is they come from twists that initially we all hated. And that's what I find so interesting about the season is just like every twist was a double-edged sword. Like we hated the knowledge is power twist, but we loved how they got duped by it. And like we hated the intricate rules of the beware advantages. Yet when Nasir said, I'm as confused as it goes on AstroTurf, like if you were in a bar and watching it, everybody would get up and start shouting. Like, so I think I even though I can't really see the comparison to the advantage in Pearl Islands where they brought people back, because I think there were multiple advantages that were kind of questionable this season. I do hope that the general public goes in the direction of remembering the highlight reel moments of this season rather than, remembering, oh, it was only 26 days, which I do feel like that's just angry Facebook people like drowning out our ears. And I do think when they look back on it, they'll think of a deserving winner and a great cast and some great moments. Personally,
yeah. And I want to explore the whole thing about, you mentioned that that the twist itself is something that we first hate, and then it brings interesting moments to the game, things that we can remember and say, oh, we were there when Xander, because to me that was the moment of the season when Xander said, yeah, you can have this fake. I immediately thought back of Jay and when he betrayed. Forgot her name. Michaela. And he said, yes, it was me. It was that just that same type of moment that I think, years from now, we'll see flashbacks of that. And it's definitely going to be remembered. I think the problem that we have is that twists in the game is okay. I mean, it does make the game evolve. We do need to keep things fresh. I mean, it's been on for 41 seasons, even though Jeff would like to forget about the 4 and keep the 1. We know, all of the real fans know it's season 41. The problem is when you try and do 20 twists in one season and it takes away from the cast, and the twists get more and more convoluted, and there's more and more reading of instructions on the screen, and the casual viewers are like, what's going on? Like, how is this twist going to counteract that twist and this twist? And the twist becomes the monster. I think we solved the monster. The twists were the monster of the season. There was way too many of it. And if you can just focus on maybe 1 or 2 good twists and let the cast do the rest, I think you'll have better seasons and better quality. But I think Jeff has moved away from doing seasons that are purely there for the fans. I think he wants to be entertained as well because he's done it for so long. So he wants to be entertained on the island himself when he's doing the game, and he wants to be shocked to a certain degree. And I think that the balance, he's lost that balance for me personally a little bit. But, you know, overall, did I like the 26 days? Just want to bring it up. I don't like it. I want to go back to the normal 39 days. But it's not going to be the only reason why I would say this is a horrible or good season. You know, like that's not going to be the defining factor. But that's my opinion about the twist. I don't know how everybody else feels. I just think there's just way too much being done too quickly. I mean, we all forget there wasn't even a swap this season. And that's something I really enjoyed. You know, like the fact that they stayed in the same tribes. And that's why I like the wheel, because it forced those interconnections between tribes, and there was meaning behind going to the summit and actually meeting people from other tribes you would never meet until the merge. So there was so much that happened that I think that in itself, you could forget some of these little intricate, interesting things that happened in the game because of it.
Drop the advantages and keep the casting.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the key. Yeah, and I definitely want to touch on like individual advantages and things about the season later on. But are you back now, Gideon? I think we lost you for a second.
I'm back. I think I got hit with a disadvantage there.
Oh boy, you get extorted.
Right.
Jeez. Gideon, where's the Spider-Man glasses, man? We're 26 minutes in. You haven't even cranked those bad boys out.
I had him at the beginning. I thought that was the joke. The joke's over.
Oh, I missed.
Everyone go see No Way Home. I know this is not a Spider-Man thing. Everyone go see No Way Home, please. Please.
Yep.
Am I the only one that hasn't seen it?
You
the
are,
whole reality pop team?
But I still would hate myself if it was spoiled for you. So make sure you go see it before the new year, because I made a rule that after New Year, I'm not going to watch myself when I talk about it. So go see it.
Which Survivor player this season would make the best Peter Parker? Let's do the crossover.
Chantel.
And we're not allowed to use Xander, right? We can't.
I was going to say the Great White Hope, Xander.
Oh my gosh, JD could be a Miles Morales.
Yeah, he could.
Legit.
You know what? I would watch a JD Miles Morales movie.
Dude, cast freaking JD.
Was JD the best character not to make the merge? Because there was a bunch of really good characters.
Not if you ask
Brad, JD.
Voce.
Voce.
Oh, really?
The man, the myth, the Voce.
The legend.
I think JD is probably the character, not the player that
or Brad. It's got to be him or Brad.
Brad.
It's gotta be
Brad
JD.
gave me.
I still pick JD, but Brad's a close second.
Yeah.
Brad gave me first boot and Marquesas vibes. Oh my gosh, what was his name?
Oh, I freaking know his name. He was kind of creepy. What's his name?
The holy guy. And I'm like, I hate myself that I can't remember his name. But he gave me him vibes this season. Peter Harkey. I'm pretty sure it was his name. And when I first saw Brad, I'm like, this is Peter.
Well, they both have the curly black hair. That's why.
Yes.
But
tall white guys with curly hair all look alike. Yes, I agree.
I'm glad I'm not tall.
I tell you what, if JD did listen to this podcast, I think he would be very happy that we think he would make a good Miles Morales, because he, out of that cast, probably seems to be the one person that would actually follow Marvel comics and be into that kind of stuff. You know,
I think
he's a track star. You know,
I think we're gravely overlooking Heather's capability of shooting some webs out of her hands.
When are the Heather jokes? When are you gonna stop those, Adam? Oh
I don't know. They came out of nowhere and they're ingrained now. I don't
After
want
the Rosa video, there should be no Heather jokes for the rest of time, because that was.
I saw that.
I didn't see it.
We missed out on some great Heather moments. I can tell.
Yeah. Did you
Heather
guys hear
Rosa was amazing.
Did you guys hear this thing where she like called production? It was like, why am I not in the show? Like, did I do something wrong? Or she was like watching and like halfway through, she was like, why am I not? And I guess they told her that like, she wasn't in the pre-merge stuff because they wanted all of the pre-merge edit to be based around the advantages. And Heather not only didn't find one, she wasn't like any discussions. And then as far as why she wasn't in post-merge, they didn't really give her an answer from what I...
But I really wanted to, because one of the things that stood out for me, and I haven't watched the finale twice, but I remember people saying, Erika didn't have a lot of the relationships and Heather was the person who had it, and she was working through Heather with the bigger group. And I think if that was the case, we should have seen some of that, at least to give more credit to how Erika played that game and used Heather as the person that would get some of these things done or get people together. And at no point did we see that. And that in itself is disappointing, because we love to see good social gameplay. And it also would have, Heather is someone that 100%, if we're going to talk about people that are going to be forgotten in the future, Heather's going to be that person. And she may be a better player than what we even give her credit for, because Erika, to a certain degree, did win this season off the back of Heather then, if that is the case. And we just didn't see it. And that, to me, is disappointing.
Well, in Kagayan, it was Trish that was that player, but they showed that. They showed Trish and
But they showed Trish because she was so ingrained with Tony's game,
Well, I feel like Heather was really
ingrained in Erika's game.
Heather, the even though it blew up his game, when Deshawn says, "Hey," in his confessional, hey, these two are close, I need to break them up. That's the point of the season where everyone, if you're watching as a fan after you've already watched the seasons, Erika's going to win. That's the point of the season where it's yes, why hasn't anyone else sussed this out and said, hey, I might try to blow this up? So they were a duo, and the fact that it took until Deshawn basically screwed himself over and called them out and tried to break them up at Tribal, it took that long for someone to do something about it. I think that proves that, one, their duo was amazing. Maybe not for TV purposes, but, on the island, it worked for one of them. But two, that they were doing a lot more than what we were shown, what a lot of you guys have been saying so far.
Yeah, I agree. It's just the difference I see in Trish being so instrumental to Tony's win and Heather being ingrained into Erika's is that coming into Final Six, I personally felt that Danny, Deshawn, Xander, and Ricard all stood a better chance and were taking more. Erika played such a low key game, at least as far as the edit showed, whereas Tony, in a season that had people like Cass, Lucina, Spencer, Wu, all-timers, maybe not Wu, but as far as strategic play goes, Tony not only outshined them all, but he did so drastically, in my opinion. So because he was such the face of the season, I feel like it was impossible not to show Trish as much as she was. Even though Erika won 41, I don't feel like Erika was the face of the season, and I feel like Chantel was a bigger face of this. Erika might, when they do the DVD where they have the three people on the top and the three people on the bottom, but then some are closer, some are Erika might be further back, kind of like how Natalie was in Samoa DVD. She was kind of standing, and I think it's Natalie I'm thinking of in the background. So I agree with you, but I think that's why I thought Trish was more shown than Heather. And I just wanted to point out, I'm not making fun of Heather. I'm making fun of Heather's edit to everyone watch. I'm sure you guys know.
We all just said it, that Heather, we saw personality at Ponderosa.
I have to check it out.
Grumblings. We're hearing all these grumblings that she wasn't the player that the edit was showing. We wanted to see more, and we feel like she did deserve more.
Well, she made it on a Survivor after a 2-year hiatus where they probably got more casting videos than ever before, and she was one of the 20 chosen. So obviously she has some shred of charisma and charm. And seeing her edit, you're probably led to believe how did she even get on the show? But obviously there's something there if she got on the show in the first place. But I guess so did Julie from Caramone.
Who?
Julia, the NASCAR driver, or the race car driver. She wasn't NASCAR. Julia.
Okay.
The
The vanilla. Remember,
vanilla
Cochran
person.
called the girl, but then he said that he didn't want to call her vanilla because that would be a be a disgrace to vanilla or something.
Yeah. Erika's win. I know it's hard not to talk about it. I know we kind of, talked around it quite a bit now with Heather and that, and you made a bit of a comparison there, or you mentioned that, and I think I've seen this online where some people are saying she's like Natalie, but I saw a lot more of Natalie and Natalie's season than I want of compared to what I saw of Erika. Erika was not even, because Natalie, by proxy of Russell being the shield, running out in front, her riding his coattail or using that as a strategy to get to the end and then win, ultimately, I could understand that better looking at that season compared to Erika's season. Erika, the producers really did her a disservice here in regards to not showing what her game was about, not showing Heather's game. Even if that was a similar strategy where she was articulating, and I don't know if she did articulate that, listen, I'm going to use Heather as my shield, as the person who's going out there doing all these social plays and, making connections on both of our behalves. I deal better on the one-on-ones. We just didn't see any of that. And I find it hard to believe that Erika, she to me seemed to be a very aware player for a lot of the game. I find it hard to believe she didn't articulate that, and that it was left on the cutting floor itself. But the editors have got a really big hand in who we see as a great player or not a great player. And again, it's hard because you had really big players this season that took away from Erika. You had Sean, you had Ricard, you had obviously Deshawn was a big part of this season as well. Xander did a couple of great things. The relationship between Xander
Even Evie.
and Evie, again, so many good players that, I think it was hard. And also we've got to take into consideration that their tribe didn't go to a single, tribal council prior to the merge. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know where Erika sits. When me and you spoke on the phone about a week or so ago, I was a lot lower on Erika's win than what I am now thinking about it. It's settled with me a little bit, and I definitely don't want to be the guy because, I don't want to be the guy that comes on here every single time and be like, oh, no, the winner didn't deserve to win. The winner always deserves to win the season because the cast decides who wins the show based on their experience in the show. We only get a very limited amount of actually what's going on there on the island and how people are perceived. So, I don't think I was ever going to come on here and say Erika didn't deserve it. Was Erika my favorite player? Did I want her to win? No, I can say that. But I'm happy for her. And I'm happy that, this does, I think, mean a lot to a lot of people out there that, in Canada want to play the show. They now know they can go onto a US show, win the show. If you have got Asian Canadian or Asian American heritage, or you're from the Philippines, you're a minority, all of these things, it does mean a lot to people who want to go out there and play this game. So overall, I think that Erika's going to be remembered. She's the first Canadian winner of Survivor US. How can you forget that? That in itself is an achievement.
Right.
Wow.
So we tier rank the season. Where would you guys tier rank Erika on a winner's tier rank?
It's a tough one. For me, it's mid tier. I don't think she's an exceptional winner. I don't think that. I don't even know if she could replicate this, but I could also see her replicate it. I could see her come back to an All-Stars Winners at War 2 season being severely underestimated once again.
Like Sandra in Heroes and Villains.
Like Sandra. Or Michelle Fitzgerald in Winners at War going all the way again, So, but if I have to be honest, if I look at how entertaining was she to watch, how is she one of the big bombastic winners out there that does a lot while they're out there? No, not really. So kind of mid-table. She's not bad. She's not great. I don't know exactly where to put her is what I'm trying to say.
When we have winners at War, when we have winners at War 2, will she be a lion or a hyena?
She
Probably
was
a hyena.
She was a sheep. She was a sheep but what was that quote that she said that she was she's a sheep that will turn into a lion or something? I don't know. She made merch about it. Go check that out. Yeah, something like that. She made merch with a lion and a lamb or something. But in my opinion, if you told me out of all the winners, if you put them out there and made them play 100 times, who would win the most times, I would probably say Erika, maybe Vesepia, players like that would go out there and win multiple times. In my opinion, I think Erika played it what I would want to play Survivor, like an under the radar, hiding behind shields, manipulating people socially. I personally would put her win at a high B, mid B. And the only reason she's not an A, lamb, not a sheep. Sorry. Sorry, I'm a Christian. I think sheep are great. Sorry. I think the only reason I wouldn't say she's an A is just because the edit did her dirty. But in terms of gameplay and strategy, I think it was almost perfect.
Yeah, I would say that, I mean, I have also already gone and put her on my ranking list because, of course, I did. She's in my high 20s. But I also put a lot of stock in social player wins. So I don't need someone that's like in your face with all these big moves, and here's my resume, guys. Look how amazing it is. Once again, love Millennials vs. Gen X, but Will ruined Survivor Forever with the whole resume BS. I prefer when social players can just go up and say, hey, I might not have been this or I might not have been that, but everyone loves me. I knew where this vote was going. I was a part of this vote. And it just so happens that Erika was on the right side of every vote that happened this season anyway, which helps her out a lot. Yeah, she wasn't the closest with everyone, but going into the finale, I thought, okay, if Ricard stays, Ricard wins. If Ricard goes, it's absolutely obvious, and I felt like the people that I was with also understood that if Ricard leaves, Erika's winning this season. Because there was no way that Heather was winning. In my head, and a lot of other people's heads, there was no way Xander was winning unless he was with Heather and Deshawn, and maybe he squeaked it out over Deshawn. And Deshawn had blown up his game the week before, so there was a low likelihood of him winning. And then when Xander doesn't send Erika to fire, it's like, Erika's winning this game. I hope everyone in this bar understands this. Erika's winning. And when the vote, like, even during Final Tribal, and I mentioned this yesterday, Xander got a lot of harder questions. Deshawn definitely got that hard question from Shane. Erika, they weren't throwing her softballs, but they were, I felt like, more than almost any other season, those people came in there knowing, we are voting for Erika, except for Danny, because Danny and Deshawn are boys. I understood that. We're going in there voting for Erika because there's no way, and Xander screwed himself over even worse by not, acknowledging that he wasn't socially aware, which in a social strategic game, you should probably be socially aware, or at least say that you are. So I think that because it was, in my head, already determined that she was going to win, the fact that she won by so much, the fact that besides Ricard, like from the Shan vote to the Ricard vote, the person that was the second biggest threat was probably Erika. And the fact that Shan, the biggest threat in the game, sussed her out as a threat at the merge or like right before the merge shows that what we were not shown on TV probably would get a lot of these starting a what's the word? Well, what's the thing where they raise money for people?
Fundraiser, GoFundMe.
Yeah, the GoFundMe. All these GoFundMe, let's get $1 million for Xander people. If they were to have seen that edit, I think they might hop off. Some of them will always be, oh, Xander didn't win because he's a white guy. It's like, that's not true, but I digress.
If Xander fights Erika, goes up against Erika intentionally at fire and beats her, do you think he beats Deshawn and Heather?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it'll be close, but I think that he either wins by a vote or Deshawn wins by a vote, but it's close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
what do you think, Chris?
That didn't happen.
Yeah, listen, it's a tough one. I hear what Coach Drew is saying, but I also think that subconsciously, at a certain level, Xander didn't represent what this season was about. Let's be honest. I think it would have been very tough for him to win this season. This is the most diverse season they've had. And I think that there, at some subconscious level, that played in the end. I'm not saying it was the deciding factor that made people not vote for Xander to win this season, but I'm not going to pretend like it wouldn't have had an effect on where the vote went at the end. I think Xander, yes, he wasn't always socially aware that Liana was coming after him a lot earlier in the game, but you could also say the same to Erika not being aware that Deshawn was coming after her and Danny. Yeah, so I mean, yeah, it was an interesting season. I don't think Xander would have won it. I also think that this is probably the best. I'm going to make a very bold call. I think this is the best Xander will ever do in Survivor. I reckon if they keep bringing him back, he's going to become the next Joey Amazing or Aussie. Probably the next Aussie would be the best. Like Aussie got second place and then never, ever made it to the end again. I really think Xander would struggle coming back. The player that I'm the most invested in from the season to see them come back and see how they adapt their game and if they could do better next time is Deshawn. Because I really like Deshawn. I think his heart is in a good place. Too. I think his heart is in a good place, and I just think that he learned so much about himself this season, and he knows where he messed up. Like I think he gets it. He went into that final tribal knowing he had no shot at winning this game, and I think that if we see Deshawn play again, I think he's the kind of player that will bring it. He will become even more aggressive, but he would definitely correct the wishy-washiness that he had this season, falling in between his decisions and things like that. So I'm really invested in that, but I don't know if Deshawn is hands-on one of the favorites because there were so many good players this season. But that's who I would like to see come back in any case.
Right. So between the three idol having to say the phrase advantage, I just knocked my chair down. Between the three idol phrase advantage, the hourglass smash advantage, and the knowledge is power advantage. Personally, I do think some funny moments came from the idol phrase, and I could see myself enjoying it maybe one or two more seasons. I don't like it long term.
You're probably gonna see it season 42, Bucko.
I think we're gonna see them all in season 42.
Yeah, I think so as well. Yeah.
My question is, like, if you guys had to keep one of those three, knowledge is power, hourglass smash, and three idol. If I had to keep one, it would probably be. See, I don't like the idol phrase at all. I really don't like them all, but me personally, I feel like the knowledge is power impacted the game the least. I don't know if that would happen every season, but
no.
Because the knowledge is power impacted the game the least. The thing is, though, without the idol phrase, the knowledge is power isn't as powerful because of the idol phrase thing, everybody knows who has the idols. So the knowledge is power is extremely powerful because she could have said it to Nasir or Xander, or as long as they don't know you have it, it's extremely powerful. If the knowledge is power exists in a season where the idol, who has the idol is only known to people you tell, or like if you get caught or something, as well as a season that doesn't have a new advantage every episode, where I feel like Liana almost could have said, do you have blah, 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 to almost anyone, and they would have had something. I picked that one because I feel like that has the least, I don't like it, but I feel like it has the least impact on the game. But like if you guys had to pick one for the Survivor to keep, what would you guys pick? Gideon, do you want to pick first?
Even though I do agree with you, but I'm really mad about it. And also, even if the three phrase thing is gone, I just think because of our generation or something, we can't keep our mouth shut about idols for some reason. Like nobody can keep their mouth shut. It was happening before the three idol phrase thing that like everybody knew about idols and stuff. So I still feel like anybody other than if anybody not named Liana gets their hands on a knowledge is power advantage, they could abuse the crap out of it, man. It could be overpowered. So it scares me, but I would say it reluctantly, even though I hate it.
Yeah, I think the problem there is that the idol, the hidden immunity idol used to be something that could help the underdog in the game, the person who had absolutely no chance of making it to the end because they were a social outcast in the game. With the knowledge is power, you could have someone get that in the majority alliance and use that against the underdog when you sometimes want to see the underdog have a chance in the game. Now, I know some people will counter that by saying it's become too powerful, and some people have been able to idle their way to the end and then win it ultimately. I don't know if I'm fully on top of the knowledge is power. Like, I'm 50-50 on that. Like, I probably hate it more than anything else. I can't endorse that, and I'm not going to endorse that. I hated the phrases this season as well. I thought it was corny, the things that they were doing in the show, and I think that's one of the twists that Jeff brought in for his own entertainment, so he could say dance, puppets dance for him on the island, and he just felt entertained by it. But I would rather have that back, because the one thing that we did see with that is that it did change the game in a massive way this season. We didn't have idols outside of that. Those were the only 3 idols in the game, and we didn't see idols being planted back in the game after the merge, right? So I do think it actually changed the game. So 3 idols only in the game. Yes, some people knew who it was. That's the fault of the people who found the clues that made it very obvious, and they're going to have to be a bit more creative if they keep it in the future in regards to what those phrases are going to be, because if it's something like dead relatives being butterflies, people are immediately going to know that's completely out of character here. But out of all those things, I think that one of the things I liked about those phrases and the idols being hidden in such a way is that it limited the amount of idols that were in the game, and all of them were found pre-merge, not after the merge. So if I had to choose between that and some of the other twists, I probably would choose that reluctantly.
It'd be funny if, like, from now on, anytime anyone says anything weird, they're just like, "Oh, idol.
He's got an idol.
Idol."
Yeah, honestly, that could happen though.
Yeah. Well, what's the chances of one of them having to make llama noises in one of these challenges to get the idol?
It could be like a thing where it's like the idol instructions are, while you're competing in the challenge, make a llama noise while you're swimming or something.
There's a scene where 2 guys are just like enjoying a sunrise, looking at the ocean. The guy's like, "Man, it looks like that ocean goes on forever." He just peers over. Cut to him getting voted out. Knew he had an idol. He's like, "I don't know why everyone was against me. All I said was the ocean looked endless." All right, Drew, if you had to pick one.
So, first of all, way to go with picking the 3 of the worst twists of the season.
That's what we do.
Well, first, short answer: get rid of the hourglass. There's no point to it. Everyone. You don't have to do a cliffhanger. We all know everyone's smashing the hourglass. Right. You don't have to drag it out. Just get rid of it. There's no suspense. The one that I want to see come back the most is the phrases, mainly because, and I know that one of y'all mentioned that the Xander moment at Tribal is the moment of the season for y'all. My moment of the season is the Nasir. Where he says the phrase, only because they faked everyone out with that, including the audience. And I love that I can watch season 41 and still be faked out by something. And when they're going back and showing how everything went down, it's like, wow, I love Nasir. At the time, I was even convinced he was going to win because of that moment. So I would love to have moments like that again in the future. Knowledge is power, it's fine, I guess, but I don't know. I was against it when it was first introduced. Now that I've been separated for a while, I still am not the biggest fan of it, but I would still prefer it over the hourglass twist, which everyone would smash the glass.
Right.
There's no one that would keep it. Stop. Right.
Yeah, they were like, "Oh, Erika, you have the whole day, you have 24 hours to decide." Like, I don't have 24 hours.
I would have smashed it in front of Jeff, bro.
I was going to say, do you reckon they had like a second hourglass there? Because I'm sure she smashed the first one right in front of him before he left.
She did. She had to. Hey, Jeff, can I just smash this now? No. This is where we're going to have the cliffhanger.
You just starve here on your own, making your fire. while you stare at an hourglass that's going to be broken. And
Just give a confessional where you think you might not smash it. Well, I think that's stupid because I already smashed it. But whatever, Jeff. It's your show.
She holds up like a broken hourglass. Yeah, I don't know. I'm thinking about it.
Jeff's like, you can smash this hourglass and become a legend in the game and have legacy, or just leave it. There's no choice, right?
Yeah.
I'm honestly surprised that Jeff didn't make the reunion about that one moment. Like, hey, it all goes back to when you didn't, or when he smashed the hourglass. And when we come back from commercial, we're going to talk about it for 3 more segments. I'm glad they didn't do it, but in my head, I'm like, if Erika wins, he's just going to say, oh, yeah, it's because of this hourglass thing. When in reality, her game picked up after that happened. And she could have easily gone at any other point, but she didn't. The hourglass, everyone, 1 through 18, I think it was 18 people in the cast, would have smashed it no matter what the situation was. Period.
Yeah. I mean, without the hourglass, Erika wouldn't have been able to put the hourglass on her merch. So, you know.
Wait for Ghost Island 2 when there's like a smashed hourglass there waiting on the island, and the challenge is to try and put it together or something. You know,
you have to walk through these broken shards from Erika's hourglass. And if you can make it, we'll give you immunity to final 2.
You skip
all right, Jeff,
final trouble.
I'll do it. I'll do it, Jeff.
You, instead of changing the history of the game, you will go into the future and go straight to final
As you
trouble.
walk through this glass to get to the end, we'll skip right from episode 1 to episode 14.
Oh my
Wait
gosh.
for everyone there.
Oh my gosh. I'm just glad it was a one-time thing. I was so afraid with every episode that the hourglass was going to come back. Like, Jeff brings out the urn. He's reading the final votes. He's like, actually, there are no votes in this urn. It's another hourglass. I'm just like, oh man, that bar would have erupted.
Too many
Well,
hourglasses.
one of the things I did want to mention, just because I don't know if it's going to come up at all, but Deshawn and the twist where he could sit out, you know, or play, and he obviously loses, and he has to go and pick one of the 3 options to potentially go out of the game. One of the things I did like about, like, I mean, I hate the twist as in itself because I don't want someone to go home on a twist. But one of the things I do appreciate in the international version of the show, we've seen that come up quite a few times where there's multiple options and you can flip something open and then you get immunity or something happens. One of the things I appreciate about the US show is that they showed all 3 of the boxes at the end to show us that he did actually have a chance to go home, because sometimes in the international version,
Oh,
it
the do or
feels like
die.
they bring these do or die
Yeah.
twists in and potential immunity, but they don't show you the other options. So people always have this thing, oh, if it's a production favorite, they'll just save them. Who knows what the other 2 boxes, if he actually had a chance of going home. So hats off to them for actually following through and showing us the outcome of it afterwards. I thought that was well done, but I'm not endorsing bringing that twist back. I don't like it in the international version. Don't necessarily want to see it in the US show either.
Could have been a magic trick. I'm still not convinced that he had a chance of going home. I'm really not. It made no sense for the story. And like the whole
Yeah, it would've
time
been
that episode was going on, and I told this to Adam in our recap, I was like, the whole time this episode's going on, I'm like, Deshawn's not freaking going home. Like, there's no way. I don't know.
Well, it ended up being Liana's downfall, and you know you've got to wonder if Liana didn't go home in that spot, what would have happened? Like, would she have gone deeper in the game? You know,
Doubted.
what would have been the outcome?
Right.
She
Let's
got
be
screwed.
honest. Let's be honest though. The worst thing to come from the hourglass twist was the fact that it sent Sydney home.
Right, Adam's queen.
I'm just saying.
I don't get the love, Adam.
You can miss me with that. You can miss me with the Sydney.
Adam, you and I were convinced she was getting medevaced, man. So I don't even want to hear that.
Well, Alexa had this whole theory that she pitched to us. She had like a whiteboard with all these So blame Alexa from Survivor Specialist for that theory. But okay, so Drew, you said your favorite moment of the season was Nasir's AstroTurf.
Yes.
Okay. You
I
know,
marked out for wrestling fans. I marked out when that happened.
That was a good moment. Yeah, when you brought it back up.
There was a couple moments I think like the biggest moment of any season usually is when Jeff says the vote of the ultimate that ultimately leads to the winner. But I probably would pick Xander with the here you have a fake idol, and it was the only time in the season that I really didn't mind the flashback moments because you didn't get to see the build up, that and the AstroTurf. Those were the two, because normally I like there's that moment where Danny goes idol hunting and you don't see the end of it. And then you're left the whole episode like, well, did he find it or not?
That was so pointless.
And then he did it. It was just he just walked past a rock. He's like, I looked for it, I didn't find it. Like, oh, okay. So look, Christian gets me, okay. If I had to pick like a underrated moment though, there was actually some decent pre-merge challenge moments that I thought were good. I think a lot of people forgot about the challenge where they tried to throw it, I believe to get Erika out, right?
Yep.
To get Erika out, and then the Seer is just like, here, I'll take over, and just like clutches it. Like really. Another low-key one was Yase's, I believe their first Vic, because it took them a while to win their first, and then they would come in second, like from then on out, because Green just got decimated. But that first Yase win, where Xander threw the ball up and it landed, like seeing them all celebrate, like finally we won. Not knowing that in a couple of days they were all gonna slit each other's throats.
Can I just add to this as well when we're talking about forgotten moments? Like, and sorry, Evie, in advance if you're listening to this. For me personally, it wasn't that challenge where Evie was swimming in the wrong direction and Jeff is like, she's doing her own thing right here. And I just couldn't forget that. That's the one that Lucia ended up clutching out.
Right. Gideon, favorite moment of the season?
It's just a personal moment for me that I like, is when Ricard was talking about being hard of hearing. I mean, I really thought that was a good moment, and I had been waiting the whole season for him to actually freaking talk about it, because I was like,
I'm sure he had.
It's like I was waiting for them to show it, because obviously like that's a pretty big part of who he is, and that can like affect his game, and it was just good hearing him talk about it. And that's why I was really rooting for him to win. I really wanted somebody that was hard of hearing to win, but you win some, you lose some.
Yes. Chris, do you have a favorite?
Yeah.
Or was that your favorite, the swimming in the wrong direction?
Definitely not. It was one of the most underrated moments. It was brilliant. I'll never forget it. But for me, like I said, the Xander one was probably the moment. But I do want to also talk about probably, and bringing it back, we haven't spoken about Ricard. And I know that, like, I haven't really been online all that much this season because I've been too busy at work, but I know that he's very controversial online. Some people love him, some people hate him for stupid reasons, in my opinion. But with Ricard, like, he had the biggest move in the game by taking Sean out, and it's up there with the Xander thing where I would remember it for a very long time in the future as well.
Right.
British guy.
Yeah.
It actually says it right on here, guys.
Oh boy. Love your buff, Chris. I'm assuming he was talking about Chris.
Yeah.
We have fun here on the Survivor Bus.
Let me just do this, guys. You guys all right? You want some water? You want some water,
Oh.
He's Australian. That's
He's not Australian.
It actually says it on the buff, guys. South Africa.
Round 3.
I tell you what. When I used to live in America for the 9 months that I lived in America, whenever I told people I was from South Africa, they didn't believe me. They're like, "There's no way this white guy's from Africa." So you guys are forgiven. I've heard it all.
He's actually from Tennessee. It's not a big deal. Like, we try not to talk about it a lot on this channel, but him and Gideon are brothers.
Try.
The accent's fake. It's a fake accent.
He's Ace from Gabon.
Nah, Christian, I know. Listen, I know it's not clear because the thing is, I'm a bit of a vagabond. Like I've lived around the world for 15 years, so my accent kind of phases into South African, Australian, Kiwi. A little bit of, I can see the British thing as well because I actually lived in London for 2 years, so I do get where you guys are coming from. My accent is a bit of a mess.
All right.
So let's talk about Ricard for a moment. As you've seen. No, Ricard was.
So you guys missed what I said. You guys actually missed what I said about Ricard because you guys.
No, we were listening.
Oh, we heard it.
I was gonna say Ricard's moment, like where he took Sean out. That to me is probably the biggest move, and that was very satisfying to watch as well. I loved Sean. Like I want her to come back. I think she's a great villainess. And the show hasn't had many good villainous characters, and not villains in general, in recent seasons, to be honest. But I'd love to see her and Wendell on a villain's tribe together in the future, and Ricard probably only on the villain's tribe as well, because I mean, he ultimately he did it dirty. He was so close to her the whole season. It was so satisfying when he
best blindside of the season.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
best blindside.
Absolutely.
For sure goes to Ricard.
Best pre-merge blindside though. JD's blindside actually.
That was brutal.
I really thought it was Jeannie going home. I was very shocked that Shan picked. I guess Shan and Ricard picked JD. That was a good, solid pre-merge blindside.
JD will never trust a woman ever again. That's for sure.
That was a life lesson, mate. He's still young. He's 20. He'll learn these things.
Lesson. That's called a life lesson. To
But
quote Jeff Probst.
I'm sure he had Eric on the phone afterwards. Him and Eric were probably, talking about it for.
He called Eric. He called Eric, and Eric was like, "You did what?"
And before the merge, at least he made it deep into the game.
Yeah. I know you had said we haven't really brought up Ricard too much yet. I don't want to start a whole separate discussion about Ricard, but just my short and sweet thoughts on Ricard. Like, if you go back to our just when the cast was leaked and all we had was Instagrams, that you could tell there was something there. Like, okay, he has just from looking at his Instagram, he seems like someone who would be good at Survivor. Or when the interviews would come out, he would be like, he would have the longest detailed ones. He would be on like the thumbnail of every one, or like the Survivor previews. He would get so much screen time. I know Idled Out did a video that was like Survivor superlatives before the season, and he was I think he did was the Kim Spradlin Award for the person who just looks like someone who would be good at Survivor, or seems like, not look, just like appearance, like personality included. And I think he proved that, but not in a very like in your face game. I think that the Chantel move was the biggest blindside and the biggest just elimination of the season. I just feel like if he would have done that a vote or two later, it might have secured him the victory, because from the moment Shan went home, he was the number one threat in the game. And unless he won like every immunity, I just didn't see a path to victory. It's why if you look at the recaps, for me, I was like, Ricard is going to win like every week. As soon as he voted out Chantel, his biggest move of the season, from that point on, I never put Ricard as my winner pick. He was my rooting for winner pick. But I mean, I picked Erika from day one. Let me just get that out of the way. But besides her, no, I definitely did not pick Erika to win. Don't think many people did. But yeah, I think Ricard was a good player who I want to see come back. But real quick, what'd you guys think about Jeff talking to the camera? Did you like it?
Depends on the situation.
I never liked it.
Never
Really?
liked it?
No.
I liked some of what they tried to do. I think that if you did it in any of the international versions of the show, it wouldn't work because it's so new still. But because you've had 40 seasons, so long, the beginning of the show where they showed some of the backdrop, I really like that, seeing who's working behind the scenes. I don't need to see that too often throughout the show, but I think in the beginning that's really cool, and the way that he welcomed us back. One of the things I really enjoyed was him talking to the camera when he hid one of the advantages, and it's something I would like to see a little bit more often. Like hey, I'm going to go hide this advantage here, so that all this conspiracy about they only planted there for certain players to get it and things like that can disappear. It doesn't need to happen every time, but I didn't mind that too much. But like anything with Jeff, he does go overboard a little bit, so maybe it got a little bit too much towards the end, but it had its moments, in my opinion.
There were 3 moments during the season where he broke the fourth wall, which I was all right with. Now, I think that Jeff Probst is kind of corny with a lot of stuff that he does, but that's neither here nor there. One is the premiere, which I was with Adam and Gideon for. I bought shots for the entire bar. It was a lot of fun. And no matter how that episode started, Gideon did not drink, by the way. Gideon did not drink. No matter how the episode started, I would have lost my mind. But having Jeff talk to us, I think is, at least for me personally, it's what I needed to get back into it. 2 is after Xander didn't find the advantage during the 1 challenge. And 3, even though I didn't like how they did the reunion, I did like the fact that he said, hey, guess what? We're doing it here, guys. And then you get the cameramen come out and they do the whole thing. Those are the only 3 times that I enjoyed it. When he, at that first tribal where he's like, hey, they're coming in. I wonder what's going to happen, guys. I'm so excited. That I cringed both times I saw it. It was, if it was possible for me to walk out of the bar when we're watching it, I would have, because that was horrible, and I'm glad they didn't make that a thing the rest of the season.
I bet you wish you had an hourglass so you could.
I wish I had an hourglass, because once again, I would have just smashed it like everyone would, because everyone always smashes the hourglass. I'm sorry.
The hourglass is definitely the one thing that's going to be remembered from this season. If you go by this podcast, like 10 years from now, we'll still talk about that damn hourglass.
I also like, if you go back and rewatch that moments, or remember the million times they replayed it throughout the season. But I love how every time before she smashes the hourglass, she has like, okay, she has a line that so clearly was rehearsed and Survivor told her to say it. She was like, okay, I think I'm going to smash. I think I'm going to go ahead and, become the person in charge of my own destiny, even though it's a big risk. Hope the reward pays off. And you
forgot about the toughest season. Like, she probably started with it's the toughest season that production told her to say, and then that whole line, right?
This was the toughest season I've ever done.
Toughest season ever.
Drop the 4th, keep the 1. This is a new era.
Yeah.
Screw Beast Mode Cowboy. He almost died, but don't worry. This is the hardest season that's ever happened. Michael Scoopin fell on a fire, but don't worry, because this is the hardest season that's ever happened.
Look, I know Samoa had no rice for 39 days, but imagine having no rice for 26 days. Huh?
Dang.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I know you might have to smash an hourglass to go back in time and remember
Samoa also had Russell and no rice, so it was even more unbearable.
Absolutely. Justin, where do you think Chris is from?
Chris is from New Zealand.
He lives in New Zealand.
Round 4! We said everything except for where he's actually from.
Wait, is he not from New Zealand? Did I get that wrong?
Well, I'm in New Zealand. Yeah, I live here, but I'm not from New Zealand originally.
Oh,
the accent,
I thought he was
South
asking,
Africa,
like, where you were currently located. Yeah. I'm kidding. I had no idea. I actually thought you were from New Zealand, so that's my bad. Wait,
Well,
where are
so
you
even
from?
so Doug, just so you know, both Doug and Christian said I'm Australian. You guys don't have to feel bad. My colleagues don't even know where I'm from, so you guys don't have to feel bad about it.
I know where you're from.
Gideon knows, yeah, because he's got a South African German first name, so he knows.
That's right. Yeah, I follow some important celebrities from South Africa. I was like, you kind of sound like them, so
there we go.
Wait, so you're from South Africa?
Originally, yeah. I've actually got the buff on right now. South Africa, Survivor South Africa.
Gotcha. Okay.
Future contestant.
It's an Easter egg for anybody watching the video.
real quick, I'm just a yes or no. Did anyone play the game within a game? I didn't even notice it after episode 2. I just tuned it out.
Yeah, they probably had like 7 hits online from that like URL, so they were probably like, "We're no longer just going to market this. We're done here." So,
well, they definitely did it because I know Riley was doing videos for it.
I solved it on
But
my own
I didn't
time.
know
I
that.
just never went online. Like I saw the 2-second clip of the puzzle, and I'd be like, okay, it's whatever.
Dude, Doug is making me crack up today.
Dude, Doug, you're a character, man.
It is
Doug,
true.
I don't
though.
think think you understand. 26 days, no rice. Come on.
26 days is way harder than spending 41 days in Africa.
well, I just did the Jeff Probst drinking game of every time he says something we've never done before, just take a drink, because that happened.
Dude, how are you
at
still
least
alive?
7 times an episode. We've never done this before, and sometimes it happened like 3 times within
Yeah,
a minute.
dude.
Again, nothing we've ever done
That's
before.
called alcohol poisoning.
You need to check your liver out after the season.
That's called a stomach pump.
Every time, every episode.
All right. Last question I wanted to ask everybody as we go around. Oh, wait, Justin, did I ask you where? I know I asked you season tier rank. Did I ask you where you would tier rank Erika as a winner?
You did not, but I would. It's just so tough because I feel like so much of her game came from that whole hourglass thing and everything that she changed. That I don't
forgot
know.
about that. Yeah.
I feel like, you know, her tribe didn't have immunity until she broke that hourglass, and then she came back, and then that was viewed as like a feather in the cap. I would like a C, maybe a high D. Honestly, just maybe I'm a little biased because I felt like Xander played the game, but Xander also got the winner's edit, it felt like, during the entire season. Erika didn't really get any good edit from production.
Right.
And then it got to the end, and it was like, okay, now they're trying to make up for it and explain to us, justify to us why she won. So,
right.
I don't know, maybe a low C, high D kind of thing.
Okay. Okay, so
Plus,
I wanted to
wait,
ask...
real quick, Adam, I
Yeah.
do have to say this. I feel like that last advantage that she had in that last comp was so overpowered that, like, and she still almost lost to Ricard and Xander, that like people were viewing that comp win as like some major accomplishment. And it's like, all right, I guess she found that advantage on the beach when everyone else had an opportunity to find it. But the fact it would have just been humiliating had she lost that competition with how big of an advantage that was. But that's just me. So.
Right. Okay. Last question I wanted to ask everybody was if you could pick personally 4 people to return from this season, who would your 4 people pick? And I'll say me and Gideon already know ours because we did this on our finale. So me and Gideon will say ours first, so you guys have a chance to think about why why it's Sydney and 3 other people. My 4 people are going to be Xander, Ricard, Chantel. I feel like that might be on everyone's list. So really the 4th, the question is the 4th. And I wouldn't pick Erika. I actually feel like Erika might be one of those winners that never returns. Just an inkling. Don't really have... When is it? Yeah, unless it's something like that, I don't see Erika. I feel like she's like a Danny or a Sophie, where I could see her returning on a Winners at War season, but don't know if I could see Erika returning on like a Fans Favorites or a Game Changers or something. And a more so for her, not that production wouldn't want to have her back. My 4th person would probably be Sydney, because I feel like we don't have I think Chris alluded to this earlier. It's just and my boy Doug here agrees with me. Wait, who's Stu?
I think he meant Sid.
I think Stu's from Britain.
Yeah, I think he meant Sid. The reason is the reason is Survivor just doesn't have the female villain character anymore. Like really, since it was like we reached the pinnacle of it with Cass in 28, and then again in Cambodia. It's weird. Wentworth, in my opinion, almost turns from hero to villain in Cambodia. Some people see her more as a hero in Cambodia because she did the idol move. I always saw her more as a villain, like in a good way. Other than that, it's like the female villain character just has not really existed. There's a couple females who, after their time on the show, have maybe become villains. But the fact that this season gave us two great villains. Yeah.
Sydney. Sydney's a villain off the show.
And on the show, too. I feel like that is I don't want to say a stereotype. I just feel like that's a factor that's kind of been missing. And the fact that we have, in my opinion, two of the greatest new school female villains in Sydney, and because if the Hourglass doesn't get smashed, I keep beating up my mic here today. If the Hourglass doesn't get smashed, remember Sydney went home because of that. I'm not saying she would have won, but I feel like Sydney was in a position to go fairly far in the game.
Drew, that's a new hot takes episode for you there. Sydney, one of the biggest villains of the new generation.
It's either her or Stu. It's got to come down to those two. Gideon, your four are the same, right? Or Sydney's not?
Nah, Sydney's not in mine because I'm actually living in reality. Unlike Adam, I'm not. What? You smoked a pipe today or something? I mean,
it better not be Bochi.
My fourth would be Deshawn. I would want to see the three that you just mentioned. I feel like those are a lock, even though I really don't feel like Xander would make it back into a final again. But I want to see Deshawn back. I feel like there's so much wasted potential. I feel
yeah.
Jeez.
Keep going,
man. You're killing us with the comments.
I feel like, I feel like Deshawn could do a lot better on a second go around, and I feel like enough people liked him. I mean, he was my winner pick before the season started, and I'm glad that I picked him as my winner pick because he definitely can win.
Right. Justin, you got four?
Yeah, so I would go with Ricard just because I feel like he just brings a good amount of energy and controversy, and just he goes against the grain in a lot of things. And the fact that he was so bitter during the reunion was just killing me. Like he couldn't put his lips together. He was so shocked by everything. Which may have been the best thing to come from the fact that they did the reunion directly after the final vote, was the fact that Ricard was so shocked. But I would actually go with Xander as well, just to see if his game is sustainable over multiple seasons. And then I would go with, it's tough. I would go with Sydney as well. She was actually going to be my 4, but my 4 is going to be Vochi. So I'm gonna add him into it just because I felt like he was a product of weak players coming together to vote him out. So that's
Bochi over Chantel. Now that's a hot take.
Yeah, those are the 4 I want to see back. I feel like Chantel will play the same game and just has the same attitude moving forward. So we just didn't see much of Vochi. Just basically he got voted out by 3 weak links when it was still 3 tribes that knew that he was going to be a stronger competitor than them moving forward. So they were just like, let's just use our numbers now to get rid of him. But that's just me.
Chris?
I'm going to try and be slightly different on some of my picks here. I like everybody you guys have mentioned, and I've got a a lot of respect for Ricard, but I'm not going to mention him in my four.
There was no
but I
British
think he'll come back.
people this season.
There's
so-
no British people, so I'll
Yeah.
go for Sri Lankan instead, and Nasir will be in there as one of the players that I want to see come back. For me, he had such a heartwarming story because I could relate to it as a young South African who spoke Afrikaans as a first language. You know, one of the first English shows that I watched was Survivor, so him being taught how to speak English by watching Survivor, I thought was quite heartwarming. He had such a childlike personality to the game of just wanting to throw himself at it and do well at it. And I think that if he comes back, he will be a character again. He will not be afraid to make moves, and his love for the game, you know, super fans, international super fans have got to support other international super fans. So I'd like to see him back. Deshawn, I'd like to see back because Deshawn, I think, has got the biggest potential to play a different game if he comes back. I think he would have learned and grown a lot from what happened this season. So I really want to see Deshawn back. And then I'll keep it equal with the guys and the girls, and I'll go for two girls. I do want to see Sean back. I hear what Pooji is saying in regards to her. I think she will play a similar game if she comes back, but her game was impressive enough for me this season where I really want to see her play again and see if she's learned when it comes to taking other people's opinions on board as well. It was the Shan show for quite a lot this season, and that's why she ultimately got voted out and found out too early. So it would be good to see if she can learn to balance the being in control and sometimes giving other people control of the game as well, to see if that takes her deeper in the game. And then finally for me, I didn't think I was going to like this person coming into the season because she was one of the few people I did see pre-season talk about, and there was a lot of talk about her hating men. So I was like, oh, if you hate me, then I'm not going to like you coming into this season either. But Evie, to me, she deserved some respect. I thought she was my early season winner pick. I thought pre-merge she was going to go all the way. There was going to be an underdog story with her, Xander, and Tiffany sort of finding power and then getting to the end. And I really think she's got a lot of potential in the game. I think she's a very strong social player, and I also do think she's got a good strategic mind. So those are the players that I'd like to see back. And then honorable mention to Ricard. I think he's a good player.
Drew, take us home.
So I'll start with my honorable mentions. Like what Christian said, Evie was a great narrator for the early part of the season. And I would be interested to see Evie come back just to see, if it continues after that, or if it's, it was just a one-hit wonder when it comes to confessionals. The other honorable mention is Erika. I would love to see Erika come back just to see how she does, against other legends or other winners, however the situation goes. Now my four. It's got three of them are basic, and the other one, you might have to think about. Also, you guys have a lot of hot takes. I'm excited because this off season is going to be amazing. Shan, obviously, as the greatest female villain since a certain other sort of female villain from HHH, who I think everyone forgot about. Never mind. Shan, Ricard, because I know Probst was... I felt like he was talking to Xander when he said some legends just never win the game. It should not have been referenced towards Xander. It should have been referenced towards Ricard. I think that Ricard, besides Dom from Ghost Island, Dom is an absolute shoe-in for another returning season. I feel like Ricard is number 2. So Shan, Ricard, Deshawn, because he's my boy, I have to. Yes, he had a lot of bad impulse control towards the end, but let's hope he fixes it next time. And then 4 would actually be Tiffany. I think that Tiffany was also a pretty good to great narrator from the time she was on the show. I think that the fact that she had good to great relationships with everyone, the fact that she sussed out that Xander was lying to her almost immediately, and the fact that that merge vote where she went home was up in the air, and quite possible she might not have gone. I think that if she had been able to get more time on the show, she could have found her way through. Not necessarily to the end, but, she could have been up there. So Deshawn, Shan, Ricard, And Tiffany, no Xander. I'm sorry for everyone out there that, thinks Xander is a Rob King, because there's no such thing.
Have you seen season 19?
There's no such thing. And don't get me started on Russell Hantz. I'm sorry.
I'm talking about Mick. Who are you talking about?
The man, the myth, the Mick.
The man, the Mick, the legend. Yes. Cool. Okay, so one other person said Sydney, and that's gonna help me go to sleep tonight.
You're an idiot.
There we go. All right, guys. This was fun. Maybe this could be like a tradition we do every year. Get all us five back together to sort of retrospect the season. So maybe we do this again at the end of 42. But thanks so much for coming on. Me and getting our Survivor buffs. Just so I wanted to run through for everyone watching what all we are up to. Me and Gideon, we have a bunch of exit interviews. I think we have 10 or 11 confirmed from this season of the 18. We just did Sarah, so that one's already up at the time of this going live. Later this week, I think we're going to do Xander, Deshawn, Bochy, JD. Next week, Sydney for sure next week, so that'll be a fun one. Some more cool off-season stuff. We're also interviewing past contestants. I know Penner's going to come on. Todd, Andrew Savage, couple other ones. And yeah, over on the main Reality Pop channel, Chris hosts Challenge Insiders and Survivor Worldwide. Chris, what are you going to be up to between now and like March when season 42 comes back?
All right, so plenty of content coming up on Reality Pop for both the Challenge Insiders and Survivor Worldwide. So the Challenge Insiders, we just finished Challenge 37 finale last week, but we are currently covering the Challenge All-Stars, which is also in Paramount Plus. So if you haven't seen it, go and watch that. And we talk about that each week at Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Myself, Chantel, and Drew from the Angel Cake channel here on YouTube. And also, if you're not completely fatigued of all the great content that we've given you on Survivor 41, the Challenge Insiders, myself, Chantel, and Drew will also do a very special Challenge Insiders perspective on Survivor Season 41 here on Reality Pop next week. So that'll be a special recap of the season. And then leading into January, myself and Riley, who is my co-host on Survivor Worldwide, we're going to come back to talk about the latest international Survivor seasons that are coming up. We've got Australian Survivor, Blood vs. Water coming up soon. Sandra Diaz-Twine is going to be a part of that cast as well, returning with her daughter on Blood vs. Water for Australian Survivor. So plenty of preseason content coming up for that. And then also, we've just had an announcement for Survivor South Africa that I also recap each week when it comes out, and there will be a first all-star season for Survivor South Africa next season as well. So they start filming in January. So if you haven't watched any Survivor South Africa, get at us on Discord. I'm sure there'll be links to the Survivor Buffs Discord probably in the description video at a later stage, and hit me up on there and I can share with you the Survivor Worldwide link for the Discord there as well, and we will give you some access or put you in the right direction to watch some of the international seasons if you want to get into that. There's some great seasons, but the latest Survivor South Africa season is now also on Paramount Plus, Survivor South Africa Immunity Island, and it is a top 10 season of all time. Coach Drew would agree with that. It was his first Survivor South Africa season that he watched, and I think, Coach, you had some pretty high thoughts on that as well. But that's kind of what we're about here on Reality Pop. Plenty of content coming in the off season, so keep an eye out for that.
Yep. So Drew hosts Reality Hot Takes on the Reality Pop channel. Drew, what do you got coming up between now and season 41?
All right, so we're going to go back to doing a few retrospectives coming up in the near future. We have China, David versus Goliath, and Gideon and Adam's, one of their favorites, All-Stars. We're going to be doing a retrospective on All-Stars. Can't wait for that. It's going to be amazing. Can't wait for
invited?
all that. Yeah, sure, you can come on. Absolutely. Can't wait to get your opinions on, Jenna crying and the Rich Sue thing. And yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. We'll talk about it later. Other than that, we have... Oh, in May, after season 42 wraps, for the people that have listened to my show or the few times that I've been on everyone else's, I have mentioned the fact that I had done 40 seasons in 40 days. When season 42 comes out and finishes, I will be attempting and/or hopefully completing 42 seasons in 42 days, where I will try to live stream if not most of my watch of those 42 seasons. I'll have people from Reality Pop come on. Hopefully I'll have a few interviews lined up by then. Obviously Adam Gideon are welcome and hopefully come on. And I'm hoping that I can knock it out 42 seasons in 42 days. So that's what we have coming up in the near future and far future. So I'm excited.
Absolutely. And Justin is the host of The Block. Anything else you wanted to say about The Block, Justin?
Yeah, for sure. I'm super excited. Last season, we kind of got into it in the middle of the season, so a little bit of a late jump. But this year, definitely doing some more preparation for it, so I'm extremely excited to have some good interviews, have some guests lined up for The Block following every Wednesday episode, I believe it is. But I guess, Adam, you and I will talk about exact scheduling with that. But to actually have a permanent co-host lined up as well, to have just a good dialogue, open dialogue about each week of Big Brother. We know there's 3 episodes a week, so a lot to unpack in Big Brother versus just the 1 weekly episode of Survivor. So excited to have some help with a co-host to discuss Big Brother content coming up in the summer. Nothing better than some summer Big Brother, so I'm really looking forward to it.
Absolutely. I know you got some interviews with the Big Brother 23 contestants lined up. Probably won't be till 2022, but those will definitely be fun to watch. But cool.
Hey, and you know what, Adam? I know we talked about Xander a lot, but he's from Jacksonville. I'm from Jacksonville. Got to give love to the boy that lived 5 miles away from me, that I see out at the Jack's Beach bars, hanging out over in Jack's Beach, surfing and whatnot. So I just got to give the Xander Hastings vibe is live and electric in Jacksonville. The people here love him.
Gotcha. Just like how we love Amber Burkich over in Pittsburgh. I know exactly what you're saying.
And just like I was
Jenna Maraska is also from Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Who?
Jenna Maraska is also from Pittsburgh.
Yes, I think she grew up really close to me too. We lost Justin. He said his phone was about to die. And then obviously, just like how Chris lives oh so close to Winston Churchill's childhood home.
Oh, okay. There we go.
All right, guys. Everyone, thanks so much for joining. This was an absolute blast to talk about season 41. Had its ups, had its downs, had some more downs, and maybe a third category of downs. But the cast was definitely not a down. The cast was an up. Great cast. One of the best ever. Again, subscribe so you could see all of our interviews with this cast and other ones. And thanks so much, guys, for joining. Auf Wiedersehen. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year's.
I love loves in my Britain.